the Allen Heath Zone 92 is a really key element of my DJ set because it's a 6-channel mixer, being that you have the 4 regular channels and 2 return channels, and I use all of them. And it's really big because essentially in Traktor I'm using all 4 decks in Traktor. And the reason why it's important for me to use 4 decks is because I use individual and tiny little parts of loops from different tracks that are going on in the mix. I don't always usually play a full track from the beginning all the way to the end. Usually sometimes I'll just sample a 4-beat loop of the kick drum in the beginning of a track and use the hi-hats and vocal patterns from another track. And when you're mixing, instead of like a 2-dimensional way with just 1 deck and 2 deck, and you start taking it with 4 decks, a lot of really interesting things starts happening, a lot of rhythms, and it really brings out a lot of energy in the track. So in particular, Traktor's spitting a MIDI clock source, which is going to Ableton. And in Ableton, I have a lot of my own loops that I've produced in the studio, clips that I launch. The MIDI clock is really important, one, to keep the loops in time, but also because of Machine. And I'm using Native Instruments Machine as kind of an external drum machine because you can really kind of add to what you're producing. Sometimes when a techno track's too stagnant and looping for such a long time, the smallest hi-hat pattern can really accelerate the music to another level. So having Machine is really powerful, and basically I'm just running Machine as a plugin inside of Ableton. So since my loops are already in sync via MIDI to Traktor, so is Machine, which I have several different buttons with, you know, hi-hat patterns, claps, ride cymbals, percussions, and I can just go ahead and switch between different ones and drop sequences as I go. In Machine, I in particular run it in step sequence mode, which is kind of like a classic analog drum machine where you have a 16-step pattern moving on. But it's also really cool just to drop into control mode and hit record and actually play the patterns while you're performing to get some other really cool ideas going. So I've actually developed a very interesting format of doing it by, you know, Traktor has a way where you can import album artwork into the individual tracks. What I did is I went into Photoshop and I just like made a bunch of colors and I exported those individual colors. Like red tracks are like the hard banging techno tracks. The blue stuff is deeper and kind of more melodic. That way when I'm mixing and you're crowd reading the crowd, you know, it's really easy to just go through the browser and locate through your music, and you can kind of easily shift your style to kind of get the crowd more into it. You know, I'm using the Traktor Native Instruments Control X1s, and they're the perfect solution for me when using Traktor. You know, everything was kind of designed in Traktor with the controllers itself. So I have my entire effects processor section, my browsers, which allow me to go up and down in between my playlist to locate the track I want to play, my loop controls, and then all my transport controls with its play and sync and stuff like that. The way I record my sets is I use these Zoom H4n audio recorders, which are incredible. I love this thing. You know, it's got the built-in microphone on the top and the hybrid XLR 1/4-inch inputs on the bottom. And the way I do it is I put in like a 4-track mode where I actually let the microphones record the crowd or even the room in a sense. So you drop the bass, you can actually hear people like screaming or whatever. And then it also got the direct audio feed so that when I dump those files onto my computer, then I can, you know, separate them, mix them down. So you get, it almost kind of makes the mix sound more beefier because you get this kind of room reverb in the background, and that mixes under the direct audio recording feed, and it really makes a really cool DJ mix. I like doing it that way. I'm Drumcell, and you're watching UniqueSquared.com.